Welcome to the Lifeline, a production of Simply BJE. The goal of this podcast is to build, inspire, and to empower our listeners through conversations on business, leadership, and mental health. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline. Now, let's tune in for today's episode. Top of the day, everyone. I trust that you are well, and thank you for joining us for this episode and the season premiere of The Lifeline. We're your host, life coach Bo Powell, and yours truly, leadership coach and mental health advocate, Barry J. Elliott, also known as BJE. Our goal is to build, to inspire, and to empower our listeners through conversations around the topics of business, leadership, and mental health. You can visit us at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline and on social media at Facebook and Instagram. Today is a special day, not only because it's the first episode of Season 3, but we have with us Mr. Lindsberg Pettway. Now, Lindsberg is no stranger to us, but the last time we introduced him as a guest. Today, though, we're introducing him as the newest addition to the Lifeline podcast family. So join me in welcoming our newest co-host, Mr. Lindsberg Pettway, Mr. For Real himself. Lindsberg, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. It's great to be here, to be a
Glad
part
to have you
of
on board.
the Lifeline.
Yes,
Lifeline.
sir. Yes,
I'm
sir.
a co-host. I'm a host now, baby.
Yeah. Bringing some life to the Lifeline, man. We're glad to have you, man, on the Lifelines. Yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed when you were here before. But before we get into the meat of our conversation, man, how you doing, Lindsberg? I mean, how was your summer, bro?
I'm doing well. I have no complaints. My summer was too quick, but it is a result of getting prepared for the fall. And I love football, and football is here, so you can't have a summer without preparation. So it was a good summer. Sent my oldest son away to school. He's starting his freshman year in college, and my middle son is starting his senior year. So he's a football player all summer, and my youngest son is a 8th grader. So it was a summer of training, work, and just kind of hanging around the house. So it was a great summer. Summer.
Well, football season is around, so I'm ready for that. But we ain't gonna get off course on that. I'll go down a rabbit trail.
Right.
But the last time we were on our podcast, like Barry was saying, you were a guest.
Yes.
And so we introduced you formally. So you're a man of many accomplishments, as people have heard before. Several master's degrees, extensive career in education, now an entrepreneur, building a great brand. But tell us about Pettway the man. I mean, let our listeners know who you are at the core.
Well, at the core, I am a 52-year-old Black male. I just turned 52 on Saturday. And I think sometimes in our society, that's an accomplishment itself, making it to our 50s and making it through our 50s. I was reading an article yesterday where this former NFL player and high school football coach passed away at 52. And it makes you think when you hear those things, when it's kind of close to your age, you're like, wow. And I was thinking the other day on my birthday when we're 19 and 20 and somebody said they were 50, we were like, oh man, he old. But now that I'm kind of riding in that driver's seat, I'm like, I feel good, man.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful to see another year, to have another opportunity to walk in my purpose and destiny. Lindsberg, the man, I'm married. I have a lovely wife, 3 sons, 19, 17, and 13. I am, like you stated, a former educator. I'm an educator at heart, so I continue to mentor young men. Entrepreneur, I have a portion of is very unique. So I work at a dealership, but I have my own company within the dealership that I market and brand. I'm a social media influencer. This summer, I had the opportunity to get paid to do a couple sponsorships. So it's a new navigation for me. Working on a big one with Capital One now. So
Nice.
I found that when you trust God and walk in it, you don't know where you're going, but if you let him lead you, he'll get you to where you want to be. And I think that's kind of been my stand in life the last couple of years. So, Lindsberg is a man who trusts God, believes in God, and understands the necessary steps you have to go through to become successful, to raise a family, to take care of all your responsibilities. So that's kind of me.
Yeah,
And I'm for
absolutely.
real. You can't forget about the for real.
For real, right? That's the brand, right?
That's the brand.
And so it's funny you mentioned, being 52, you start thinking about legacy and stuff like that. I was just the other day, I crossed over into the 50 club this year. Um, but recently I was thinking, it's like you start to look at life differently. What's my legacy going to be like? You start seeing some other people that you grew up with. Some of them are long and gone. They're passing away, stuff like that. And you feel good, but you realize that you are older.
Yes.
So talk a little bit more about that. What's your mission? What do you want your legacy to be?
That's a very good question, Bo, because I sat on my deck last night to about 12 o'clock thinking about that. And it's ironic that you're asking me. And certain times in life, when you come to a crossroad, you think about your career, you think about your accomplishments, you think about where you want to be, just new emotions. Like I said, taking my son to school. He's always been here, dropped him off. Before we left, I hugged him and I started crying. I'm like, what am I doing? So that's my legacy. He's Lindsberg Pettway III. Making sure that he's prepared for what's next. Then I have two other sons. Business, I have goals. I was speaking to a couple of different people about possible dealership ownership, just the steps, because I'm not even in that position yet. So legacy is very important. And I think legacy is also tied to destiny. And when you understand that God has created you for a purpose and you walk in it, then your legacy will be what it is, and it will be the one you need it to be. I think about how I transitioned to a caregiver for my mom, who's 89. Never thought I'd be doing that. So that's a part of my legacy. I think about how I continue to mentor young men that I taught who were in kindergarten, first grade. They called me for advice. So that's a part of my legacy. I think about the influence that I have on some of the young ladies that I come across and communicate with and give them example of how I love my wife and treat my wife, and give them examples of what to expect and not to tolerate from men as they navigate their relationship. So that's my legacy. So legacy is huge. And I thought it would be tied to something different when I was younger, meaning sports and being a huge professional athlete, but God had other plans. So I think if I can give any advice on legacy, find out what your purpose is and your destiny, and let God lead you, and continue to be the best in those small, intricate relationships that you have with people.
Wow. That's great. I've been doing a teaching on the tabernacle, but I've been correlating it with us being the temple of the Holy Spirit according to 1 Corinthians 3:16. And when you look at the tabernacle, God provided Moses, with a plan, a purpose, a pattern, the people he needed, and then provision. And I think as we look at our lives, the same is applicable. God always provides a purpose, a plan, a pattern, but it's up to us to walk in it.
Yeah, because Moses was scared.
Yeah, Moses was scared.
He was nervous.
But when you think about it, to build a tabernacle in a desert, no less, that's a mammoth undertaking, right?
And so we've never done it before.
He had never done it before, right? But here's the thing, though: we're in life, and we've never done this before.
Never done it before.
Every stage of our life is new to us. And so we have to lean into the plan, the purpose, and the pattern of God, and trust him for the people and the provision that we need in this level or at this stage of our life.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, of course, we've been talking about you joining the podcast. We talked about it, and we weren't expecting it. It just kind of happened. But what was the driving factor that made you decide that the Lifeline podcast was a fit for you and your brand?
Well, to be honest, I wanted to start my own. And sometimes when you want to start your own, you have a certain mindset. And I'm man enough to understand that if I don't have the resources or the wherewithal to start my own, don't be afraid of joining alliances, or being intimidated by other people. When I got the initial invitation from you, I was flattered that someone wanted to speak to Lindsberg. And because when you live life, you live life. You don't really realize, what you're doing because you're doing it. So after the first initial conversation that we had offline and how we connected spiritually, I was like, wow, this was good just to have two brothers to communicate with on the levels which we were communicating. And then as we did the other three segments, I was like, you didn't know, but I already had said, I need to be a part of this,
Wow.
Because I'm a type of person, if I see something, I'm looking like this. I could be, how can I be relevant and bring this up? And then when you put my picture up as a guest, I said, oh man, I fit. This is, I could be a part of this. But I definitely prayed about it. And then we had a conversation and we were just talking. Me and Barry, we were just talking and it kind of evolved into it. And I don't know if I asked, could I be, or you asked me, would I be? And here we are.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's history, as they say.
Yeah, the rest is history, right?
Right.
It's amazing how God orchestrates moments. And I believe that one of the things I really appreciate about my connection with the two of you individually and collectively is that it wasn't forced and I wasn't looking for it. It was organic.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about divine connections and organic networking.
Steps of a good man are ordered by God. And that's how I have always lived my life. I say that with all due respect. I remember I was dating my wife. We worked at the same school, and this counselor, Dean, she was coming up the steps and I was going down, and she looked at me kind of like, because I was shorts, cut off t-shirt. I was the gym teacher, fresh out of football, and she's like, what you gonna do with Miss Hogan? What you doing, Miss Hogan? And I said, the steps of a good man are ordered by God. And she shut up and kept walking. So that's kind of how I always operated. And I truly believe I when something goes wrong, it has a purpose. And like when we talked, I wanted to have a conversation before we did the podcast to find out who you were, what this was, what type of person you were, and both. And I guess the the post conversation really is what solidified when we were, I keep it real, when we were praying and the Spirit of the Lord came in and you spoke into my life and you didn't know, but you hit some things right on the head. And that's why I say, yeah, this is definitely necessary. And I think if you have a relationship with God and have a spirit of discernment, you should operate your life like that, even in business and decisions that you make with relationships. You got to kind of navigate so you don't have to learn from the lessons of life unnecessarily. And we have all, and I guess I can assume that we have experienced some unnecessary lessons in our 50 years, both, that we didn't have to, if we had got wise counsel or just listen to that. Something told me, no, that was a spirit, So I really think that divine connections and, as you said, spiritual networking, that's a good one. That'll preach. I think that is definitely necessary if you want to be a mature saint or a mature believer in God.
So it's interesting because you saw the value in the Lifeline. Of course, both saw the value in the Lifeline. But to be honest, there was a point that I felt like the podcast space was overly saturated, and I was not sure that there was a place for something like this. And of course, my mind has since changed since then, and I see the value in it. But why is the Lifeline important to you personally and in general?
Just the name. And when you think about a lifeline, you think about a person drowning, or someone needing some assistance. And lifeline, it's an opportunity to help people. And I think about my life experiences, losing a career, starting another one. losing loved ones, head-on car collisions, dealing with different types of jealousy, envy, hate. I think my life has an opportunity to help someone else. We go through things not for ourselves, but for others. So if my life, my testimony could assist someone, to motivate someone, or have them make a better decision, I thought it would be a great opportunity.
Good stuff. I'm gonna say this, and if Bo has any more questions, he can do his thing. But I want to say to both of you, thank you for trusting me with your voice and trusting me with your time.
Right.
We've never, I guess this would shock some listeners. None of us have ever met in person.
No.
It's always been virtual.
Right.
But we know each other by the Spirit, and so that's the
Right.
beauty of it. And so I'm grateful for both of you. I don't take you for granted. I think when you're younger, of course, I'm the baby of the bunch, which I celebrate, because it's probably was a few spaces.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest, but let the record
Only
show
in age.
Only in age, bro.
Only in age.
But 50 cometh. 50 cometh next
He
year.
didn't even know what a breezy was. Yeah, only in age.
Yeah. You've been 50 for a long time, bro.
But I'm 48 in number. So,
yeah.
But
Right.
When you're younger, you take things for granted. I know I did. Let me speak for me. You take things for granted. You take connections for granted. The older you get, the more you realize how important connections and relationships are. And I was thinking about that yesterday. I was at the gym, and I changed gym or got an additional gym membership to decide which one I'm gonna go with. And I was at the gym, and this guy that was at my original gym, he came over and we started talking. We talked about 45 minutes, and he shared with me his problems with his wife and all kinds of things. And after I left that experience, I was thinking that when a man trusts you, it's a major thing, because three things that men don't give up easily. We don't give our trust easily, we don't give our heart easily, and we don't share our mind easily. And so when you get a man that trusts you with any of those things, you can't take it for granted, because once you lose it, it's going to take a lifetime to get it back. And so my whole point is that I have two brothers that trust me with their brand, that trust me with their time, trust me with their energy. I can't take it lightly. So again, I simply want to say thank you.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you for saying yes. A lot of people don't realize the yes to start it, the yes to push past the fear and the doubt is a necessary part of us being here too. So, thank you for the yes to obey God to do, because that's huge there too.
Wow, and I'll say this to you, Barry. And I've shared this with you, privately. Obviously, even publicly again. Just that I'm honored that you would even allow us, because frankly, this was your platform. You already had the Lifeline going, and you invited us into this space to allow us to have our voice to have a greater influence, to have a greater reach. So, man, we appreciate you. I appreciate you just allowing us to be. And so I didn't come into last year expecting to be on a podcast. I thought about it. People said, man, you should do a podcast. But, like Lindsberg was talking about, I didn't know where to start. I didn't really know what to do, how to do it. And just through, happenstance, man, here we are here. So thank you so much for saying yes to it, but also opening up this space for me to be here, man. So I really appreciate it.
My honor, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all good. So with that being said, though, this concludes our first episode of the new season, and another episode of The Lifeline with your host, BJE, Lindsberg, Pettway, and yours truly, Bo Powell. So don't forget to check us out at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline and on social media. Look, we're on a mission. We want to bring light and life into your household. So join us and let us hear your feedback, because it's all about bringing life to you on The Lifeline. Y'all take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with host, business expert, and life coach Bo Powell, social media influencer and entrepreneur Lindsberg Pettway, and leadership coach and mental health advocate Barry J. Elliott. Join us next week for another impactful conversation on The Lifeline. God bless.